Welcome, friends.
To the How-To Heretic.
I'm Uncle Mark.
And I'm Uncle Dan.
And I'm Uncle Doug.
And this is your user's guide to life on the outside.
That's right. Leaving religion is the first step into a larger, better world.
But it can be a scary world.
Help me!
Things work differently now.
Never fear. That's why we're here.
We're your audio uncles. And with help from good friends and experts in all sorts of fields,
we're going to share the stories and seek the knowledge to build a great life.
After all, you only get the one we know of, so you'd better make the most of it.
Hey guys.
Hello.
Well, howdy do.
Howdy do to you. Here we are at 186, episode 186 of the Impossible Podcast, but we do it anyway. And, wow, what a show. We got a fun show today.
It's starting to seem distinctly possible. I'm just going to throw it out.
I don't know what's the number, what number means possible. I don't know.
Yeah.
Nobody does. But it's a fun show today.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
I think so.
Despite having a substantial conversation about death, it was a good one. I am going to talk about a stupid bet, and you shouldn't make it.
I couldn't agree more. And then I'm going to spend some time talking about that thing on the back of that car in 1970.
Yeah.
Is that Calvin
exactly.
pissing on Chevy?
That's Calvin pissing on the Capitol.
Okay.
And I have invited a friend of the show to come on. That's Dr. Terri Daniel, prolific author and chaplain. I don't know why pastor was what came out. Secular chaplain and expert on grief and dying to come and talk to us about those things.
Kind of a hero in my book.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think she's one of the good guys for sure. So we're super happy to have her here. So let's work our way to that interview. We'll hack through the first two segments of bullshit to get to that interview. What do you say, fellas?
Let's do it.
And all you out there, you can probably tell I'm a little under the weather. I had my second vaccine, and I'm a bit stuffed up. So I apologize. I've done everything I can. I've pumped myself so full of Sudafed and every other medication I get my hands on that you could probably shoot me and it wouldn't hurt. Yeah. But I'm still stuffed up, and I apologize.
He's literally a meth lab now.
Yeah, but we're going to get through it. We're going to get through it, and it's going to be worth it. You'll see.
Hey, Uncle Doug.
Well, hello.
When was the last time you hit Vegas?
Oh my God, is Vegas still there?
Well, my understanding is that yes, it is, and they've been pretending like nothing has ever happened.
Yeah, it's gonna be a while before I feel comfortable in a buffet in Vegas ever again.
Yeah. Did you ever feel comfortable in a buffet in Vegas?
No, but you know.
I mean, I wasn't going to the buffet thing. I was thinking more about the gambling,
the tables.
You can go out there and you can hit the games of chance.
You can become a slot jockey.
You know, it's funny for all of the vices that I have sampled in this life, gambling has never been of interest.
I'll bet you're wrong.
Yeah, exactly.
So
I'll bet I can make you like it.
Well, gents, as much as I tried to avoid it this week, I was unable not to see clips and postings online about the most recent of 17 of Jesus' best friends on earth, prophet seer, CEO, and revelator of Ensign Peak Investments, LLC, Mormon prophet Russell M. Nelson's Mormon General Conference talk on Easter Sunday, in front of what can only be described as a desperate cry for help in the form of scenic design.
Oh my God, it was so bad.
So bad.
Yeah,
it
like
was
a regional
amazing.
production of Our Town had to be pushed off the stage.
It was a high school production. It was unbelievable.
The second I saw it, I thought of you. I had to send you an image of it just because I was like, what the fuck is happening?
Unbelievable. Now
they have $100 billion and they spent $11.50 on a stage.
If that. Now, I'd happily talk about the ugly set they paid someone to design and build for a show televised to millions of people with eyes all day long. But it's actually the ugliness of Nelson's words that I'd like to use as an intro into my segment today. We're going to get to the gambling. And I quote, "Your mountains may be loneliness, doubt, illness, or other personal problems, Now I'm speaking at 20 times the speed he was.
Yeah. Yeah.
Your mountains will vary, and yet the answer to each of your problems is to increase your faith. Lazy learners and lax disciples will always struggle to muster even a particle of faith. To do anything well requires effort. Becoming a true disciple of Jesus Christ is no exception. Increasing your faith and trust in him takes effort. And then I'm just going to skip ahead a little bit because there's so much horrible poison in here. He picks up, second, choose to believe in Jesus Christ. If you have doubts about God the Father and his beloved Son, or the validity of the restoration, or the veracity of Joseph Smith's divine calling as a prophet,
then you're correct.
Choose to believe and stay faithful. Take your questions to the Lord and to other faithful sources. Study with a desire to believe rather than the hope you can find a flaw in the fabric of a prophet's life or a discrepancy in the scriptures. Stop increasing your doubts by rehearsing them with other doubters. Allow the Lord to lead you on your journey of spiritual discovery. There is so much poison in those paragraphs. It's hard to know where even to start. The central
a flaw in the fabric
of a prophet's life.
That's one way to yada 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 away, statutory rape. Hey, Matt Gaetz. Matt Gaetz, are you listening? Call it a flaw in your fabric.
Yeah, exactly.
The central premise being Mormonism cannot fail. Only doubting, useless individual Mormons can fail. You doubting, disgraceful pieces of shit.
Yep.
Secondly, being an active Mormon is many things, but lazy is not among them. Mormonism is literally a second full-time job for true believers. Just the official scriptural canon is over 2,700 pages, thousands more if you include the Journal of Discourses, which you may or may not. And you're supposed to kind of know all of it. Sundays are a total loss, and callings and service projects, etc., inhale all the hours you aren't at work or sleeping. So go fuck yourself with the lazy learner's canard, Rusty. But what the superannuated CEO of the Zion Security Corporation at City Creek Mall, LLC, was doing there with his faith it until thou maketh it bullshit was just another lazy deployment of a very lazy old chestnut of last resort deployed by Christian apologists, that being Pascal's wager.
Yeah.
And no, Uncle Dan, I said Pascal's wager, not Pascal's pager, which is what his bookie at the off-track betting place uses to send him messages that his horse lost yet again. I said Pascal's wager, which is probably the weakest theological apologetic there is. So a little about its origin. Pascal's wager is a weird little thought experiment written by Blaise Pascal, a very smart, gifted French mathematician, born in 1623 and published after his death in 1662. It's kind of an imagined conversation between a believer, probably Pascal himself, and some unnamed atheist or at least agnostic. My silly bit about Pascal's off-track bookie is actually relevant because, as an avid gambler that he was, this thing really is a wager and a bet. Have you guys ever read the original kind of text of Pascal's wager?
No, I don't
I
speak
did.
French.
It was in a book I read.
Yeah.
But it's been a long time, and I remember it's very. I don't remember it.
He dresses it up and he tries to in my opinion, he tries to overly complicate it,
Right.
when it's kind of not.
Well,
it's actually a very simple concept.
when you write something that stupid,
Yeah.
flowery language helps to sort of mask the odor.
Yeah,
of it.
word count helps if you have a stupid idea. So just ask Joseph Smith. So the believer lays out a proposition to the agnostic in the wager, saying essentially, if one were to believe in God and conduct one's life accordingly, and then die only to find out the God of the wager isn't real, then one has lost very little. But if one were to choose not to believe in God, then pass through the veil only to find God does indeed exist, one risks losing greatly, and not just by being denied entry through the pearly gates, but by being dispatched to the fiery lakes of hell for eternity.
Right.
But if one wagers that God does indeed exist and then snuffs it to find out that Pascal's God does exist, you are rewarded beyond all imaginings with eternal glory in the presence of God. So in brief, if you live your life as if God exists and he doesn't, you haven't lost much. Live your life as if he doesn't, and it turns out he does. You, my dear, are very fucked. Live your life as if he does, and he indeed does. Well, it's harps and clouds forever and ever for you, dear gambler. So we didn't get really deep into philosophy before I dropped out of art school. So I am perhaps not the philosophy ninja I would prefer to be to take this one on, but in reality, I don't think I have to be any sort of philosophy ninja to do Pascal's Wager justice. And I, read quite a bit on it, and there are some very long discussions about the deeper philosophical issues with Pascal's Wager. But let me just stick to the rivers and the lakes that I'm used to, those being bad ideas applied badly. So firstly, Pascal's Wager is not actually what a lot of Christian apologists who still use it, not what they think it is, which is a proof of the existence of their God. In fact, it totally concedes the whole point of trying to. It starts thusly: if there is a God, he is infinitely incomprehensible, since having neither parts nor limits, he has no affinity to us. We are then incapable of knowing either what he is or if he is. He continues a bit later, God is or he is not. But to which side shall we incline? Reason can decide nothing here. There is an infinite chaos which separated us. A game is being played at the extremity of this infinite distance where heads or tails will turn up. What will you wager? According to reason, you can do neither the one thing nor the other. According to reason, you can defend neither of the propositions. Pascal himself, an extremely devout believer, concedes that it is just not possible to know whether or not God exists at all. And I counter with the proposition that he is wrong. It would be entirely possible to know if God exists if the all-powerful creator of the universe would simply reveal himself,
right,
as Pascal's own beloved Bible claims God did on many occasions, hugging the BC AD international dateline in and around Judea. And of course, when one is placing this bet, what God can and should they expect to meet when they arrive over the rainbow? Pascal simply asserts that it's an absurd proposition to claim he would be anything other than the God Yahweh, the God of the Testaments Old and New. Obviously, religious and cultural chauvinism were very much the prime directive of the Catholicism of the 17th century. But for a man hailed as such a deep thinker, declaring the God just happens to be the one he believes in out of the thousands of options is a pretty arrogant wager made prior to making his more famous one.
Right, because at the end of the day, you have to bet 100% correct. Right?
Yeah. Yes.
Even if you bet on God but the wrong God, you're in the same boat as the atheist.
This is a pass-fail. There's nothing in the middle. It's all or nothing, this proposition, right? It's a literal coin toss.
Well, I mean, who made that argument the best of anybody was one Mr. Homer Simpson.
What did he say?
Who at one point said, but what if I'm wrong about which God? Then I'll just be making him madder and madder.
Oh, that's right.
something along those lines.
And what of the other sort of arrogant, dismissive portion of the cosmic bet? That being, all you have to do is decide to believe. More on that in a bit. And live your entire life according to the particularly staunch tendril of Catholicism that Pascal did, that being called Jansenism, which is an odd little kind of French offshoot. From cradle to grave, attending Mass multiple times a week, putting all you could into the collection plate, eating fish on Fridays, genuflecting before a gruesome image of some poor Jewish guy dying miserably via Roman capital punishment, etc., etc. And if it was all for naught, what did you really lose? Well, a lot.
Right.
To live life in the Catholic France of the 17th century and live by the dictates of the Roman Church was an exercise in servility and fear. Catholic life is still an exercise in servility and fear.
Yeah.
Terror of hell, slavish obedience to a palace full of debauched, corrupt, hysterical virgins, dropping one's meager earnings into a plate every week to fund a global empire run from a Baroque castle literally made out of golden statues. Living such a hobbled existence is losing more than a little in the quality of life wager for me, Blaze.
Right.
And again, Pascal, hailed as such a brilliant mind, could see only his own experience reflected in the mirror of his wager. What of the plight of the poor, of women, of minority groups in this wager? The life of women in most religious communities at the time was, and still is, markedly worse than men. So sure, here, lady, be a slave to both Rome and the men in your life, because what do you really have to lose? This bet could pay off for you.
Yeah. You might hit a jackpot at the end, but also look at how shitty this part of your life is.
And all you have to put on the table is all of your physical and intellectual freedom and curiosity forever.
Right.
But as Pascal's wager has outlived him by several hundred years, it is now a universal apologetic for believers of all stripes. As we saw, local boy Russell M. Nelson used it to tell Mormons to believe or else. Evangelicals are very beloved of Pascal's wager because their visions of hell far outweigh any possible dream of heaven, just like so many other Christian denominations. Demanding people live by the dictates of your religion, which in most cases is the one you were assigned at birth, because the already outlandish proposition of your particular flavor of the afterlife and its king could possibly be true, is a pretty fucked up sales pitch for your religion, bub. And that gets to what is really the fundamental problem with Pascal's wager for me. It's so cynical and so poorly crafted an argument because it not only doesn't even try to demonstrate the argument central to itself that God exists, but even worse, it's an argument for a deeply dishonest way of living.
Yeah.
It's not an argument to believe in God. It's an argument to act as if one believes in God.
Right.
Terrorizing people into belief, as Catholicism has a long history of doing, isn't getting them there honestly. An all stick and no carrot approach may be effective in forcing compliance, but is compliance really the same as belief? Pascal is arguing on behalf of a God who apparently doesn't give a fuck about sincerity, merely appearances, which makes his all-powerful judge of the weight of a man's heart a pretty insincere schmuck himself.
Yeah.
Real belief is a thing that's arrived at through a series of experiences and understandings. It isn't just something you choose to do all of a sudden. His appeal to the idea that evidence shouldn't enter into your thinking is appalling. Evidence is necessary for rational decision-making in every corner of life. To reject the need for it because none can be provided for your proposition is cute, but I can see your bullshit there, Blaze. And finally, an experienced gambler like Pascal should know one is a fool to place a bet if you really don't know if the guy on the other side of the table is going to take it. To be so blithely confident that the house is going to pay out on the terms the better sets, strains foolishness well beyond its breaking point.
Yeah.
Again, whenever a religious apologist deploys la pari de Pascal, they are admitting they have no compelling evidence for their extraordinary claims, but insist that you live by the dictates of the religion they were 80% likely to have been born into, so they themselves don't feel dumb for believing it. Using Pascal's wager means they've given up, but you goddamn better pretend as they do. You better pretend as they do, or else. And that is a super shitty argument for anything, if you ask me. Well, maybe not everything. You see, fellas, on our side of the reason and sanity argument, we have used a sort of Pascal's wager of our own, most notably when discussing climate change.
How dare you?
Those of us who believe man-made climate change is occurring, which are, just to cut to the chase, all the sane people on Earth, have proposed just such a wager. That being, if we immediately take action to try to slow down and maybe even one day reverse climate change, the benefit is enormous. That being, life on Earth continues to exist. If we do nothing, everything dies a slow and miserable death on a more and more hostile planet. But even if the deniers are right, and we switch to a more conscientious, less consumption-based society for no reason at all, what have we really lost?
Right.
Basically, no more rolling coal, which hardly bears mentioning as a sacrifice. But here's the difference. There is a massive body of evidence compounding daily for the reality of catastrophic climate change. Even if there was only just one evidence for it, that is one more evidence than there is for the existence of Pascal's God. So, thanks for the wager, Blaze. We'll take it from here. So
Yeah.
that's Pascal's wager. I say don't take it.
There's a very funny cartoon. A group of scientists are gathered they're discussing climate change, and one scientist is asking the group, "What if we make the world a better place for the wrong reasons?"
Right.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's
what
exactly
if
right.
we've
But I agree with you. Like, it's so crazy because if you accept all of the wager, it's such a long stretch. Okay, which God?
Yeah.
Which particular Christian God? Okay, which Baptist fucking God? You drill all the way down on that. You're telling me that at the end of all this, you never believed in him, you just pretended to, and you're in? Like he doesn't.
I mean, it's such a rules-based theology. This theology that you can that like God works in technicalities. It's kind of shocking that they would admit that, like, it's such a technicality-based idea.
It's so cynical, right? It doesn't. It's not really an appeal to true faith and an intellectual and spiritual searching of the heart, right?
Yeah.
That you can examine the texts and the claims and kind of have that. Apparently, he had some, and I don't know what it was. He had some very profound spiritual experience himself. He believed in that.
Was it a wager-based spiritual experience?
But there's one of my favorite, and the name of the Egyptian god is failing me right now. But the one who weighs your heart against a feather when you arrive in the afterlife, right?
Oh yeah.
And that
I think his name is Bob.
It's Bob. It's Bob of the Nile. And to me, what that symbolizes is, you absolutely, sincerely need to have been a good person. You truly, what weighs on your heart, your belief and everything, that counts. What Pascal's wager says is it doesn't count at all.
Right. It's not weighing the feather thing is not weighing your deeds and actions. It's weighing where you really live, like what's real about you.
Right.
Personally.
Yeah. Wouldn't you rather face your maker and say, "Look, dude, I'm not the first to say this, but look, man, you gave me this huge fucking brain, and I applied it to you, and you came up wanting. So I lived my life according to what I could prove, what I believed was moral and just." And you're going to judge me for that? Meanwhile, this guy who pretended the whole time gets to waltz right in. And like you said, Uncle Mark, what if, the faith you decide is the one true faith you're gonna pretend at is the Westboro Baptists?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, you're going to live a miserable life. You're going to have to hate gay people. Yeah. You're going to have to, fight your coworkers and lose your family the whole time going, God, I hope I'm right about this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
it's so cynical.
Also, if you want to extend the wager, why not add a daredevil element to it and just realize that Christian theology says I can just repent right at the end?
Yeah.
And it's all forgiven? So I'm going to take the wager. I'm going to live my life like a crazy person. I'm going to commit all the sins I want to, not live the way Pascal says, but actually just live like a live whatever I want to, and then as soon as I think I see it coming, do a quick repentance.
Yeah.
And since it's all technicalities anyway, I get to go where you went, and I had a fun life anyway.
I will pull a Kevin Sorbo at the end of God Is Not Dead. Right. And just laying in the road, say, what did he say? Jesus. And the guy stands up. Today's a great day. It's over a dying man. But yeah, that's exactly right. You, according to Pascal, I think you could pull that deathbed repentance off.
So, what is this bullshit? You're right, Uncle Dan. This technicality-based religious belief. It's basically, God and heaven are the plot of the Star Chamber, right? You know what I mean? It's like you can get in or out based on, where'd you drop the gun, on this side of the fence or that side of the fence? I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? An all-knowing God is like, man, nothing I can do.
Is God too stupid to know if you're sincere or not?
Exactly.
Right.
Or he doesn't care.
It's a hot mess. It's a terrible.
No matter how you look at it, the God that Pascal proposes, I'm betting against it.
Yeah, me too. So let's cash in our winnings and move on.
Always bet on black.
Uncle Dan.
Hey,
we've talked before on the show about what a dumb kid Doug was.
Sure.
When he was like 4 or 5, he was just so stupid. It was ridiculous. But But one of his favorite things, one of the things he would do is, because he was dumb, he called the classic McDonald's filet of fish a fish-o-lay, which I thought was pretty funny. Yeah,
that's a better name. I think he wins. I'm giving it to him.
To this day, I mean, it's not like I order them often, but if I ever get one, I have to stop and think about it before I order it.
I haven't had one in years. I loved them when I was a kid. I'm sure they're just horrible, right?
Yeah.
They're probably exactly. They're made out of goldfish that have been flushed down people's toilets or something.
Yeah, just absolutely horrible.
Best, yeah, exactly.
But I do love a good fish dish.
Well, I think I can help with that. We find ourselves, dear uncles, at the dawn of the second decade of the 21st century, neck deep in culture wars. It seems like no matter where you look, especially because we are still mostly at home viewing the world through social media, that someone is offended by something and someone else is offended by that. Whether you're a Christian who is offended by the insinuation by Lil Nas X that Satan might in fact be gay, or you're a Christian who is offended that a trans child might join your daughter's elementary school soccer team and win all the trophies, or you're a Christian who is offended that your neighbor still hasn't taken down their Black Lives Matter sign, even though you've asked them to 3 times while driving by and honking, it really seems like you enjoy being offended. However, it's important to point out that to one degree or another, the culture wars have been playing out since the founding of this crumbling nation. Most of that time it's been white culture versus brown culture, and white culture's been on a bit of a winning streak. But the culture wars have played out on occasion in utterly pointless and thankfully nonviolent ways as well. Such is the subject of my segment today, the lowly Jesus fish. As we'll discuss, this symbol of Christianity has been around since the inception of the religion, and may indeed be its original symbol. But for most listeners will recall the Jesus fish had a bit of a renaissance in the late 70s and early 80s in the form of a decal or ornament that one could, and did, display on the back of their car.
Yeah.
Nothing says, I make good decisions, quite like proclaiming your inch-deep Christianity by buying a Chinese-made plastic ornament and displaying it on the back of your AMC Gremlin. The most popular version was just the simple dual arcs attached on the left side and slightly overlapping on the right. However, there were versions with a tiny cross on the inside or with the name of Jesus, or if you wanted to come off as especially insufferable, the Greek word ichthys. More on that in a minute.
Right.
In perhaps the most pointless battle in our never-ending culture wars, soon there were fish ornaments with 2 tiny legs and Darwin's name on the inside. A mini arms race would soon follow, with the Jesus fish eating the Darwin fish, or the Darwin fish stomping on the Jesus fish, and so on. Things soon calmed down, but the Jesus fish wasn't going anywhere. It's ubiquitous in corporate Christian corporate logos, on necklaces, stickers, and of course there isn't a Christian band in existence without at least one prominent Jesus fish tattoo that they try and cover up during the custody hearings. So today let's talk about the Jesus fish, what it symbolizes and where it comes from, and when it comes from. Unlike so much of modern Christianity, the Jesus fish actually dates back to the origins of the religion. Wow. It actually shows up in some of the earliest Christian writings as early as the late 1st century and early 2nd century. So the fish itself is called ichthys and is an acrostic embedded in the Greek word for fish. An acrostic is when it's basically an acronym or an abbreviation. So each letter stands for something.
Right.
And the Greek word ichthys looks to us like IXOYE, although not exactly. So that's iota, chi, theta, upsilon, and sigma. And those stand for, respectively, Jesus Christ, God's Son, Savior. One thing that probably everyone knows about the ichthys is that it was a kind of secret handshake between early Christians.
Right.
The idea being that it was so dangerous to be identified as a Christian in the first couple centuries CE under the Roman Empire that it was best to be cautious. So one Christian would draw a simple arc in the dirt with their toe, and if the other person was not a Christian, nothing would come of it. However, if they were, they would draw the second arc completing the ichthys. Now both out of the closet, they could proceed to complain about gay people. Here's the thing, that is all basically made up. Firstly, there is absolutely no contemporary writing at all from the earliest Christian texts all the way through to the conversion of Constantine that speak of the ichthys as anything of the kind. The ichthys is brought up a lot as a symbol of Christ, but never once is it referred to as some secret sign. Layer onto that, most current Christians believe that the ichthys was used as a secret symbol during the terrible reign of the dread Emperor Domitian from 81 to 96 CE. As we've discussed on this show many times, it turns out that Domitian, like many of his fellow emperors, was surprisingly lenient towards local religions. Now, there were emperors who were sons of bitches, but Domitian wasn't one of the worst. Many of the earliest Christian writings and engravings occurred during his reign, and there is no evidence that Christians had to engage in such drastic subterfuge. Lastly, the Romans were known for many things in the ancient world, but they weren't generally thought of as stupid. This little secret code was not the Zodiac cipher. Had the Romans been all about finding and persecuting Jews, it seems unlikely they would not have been able to crack the code of the ichthys.
Romans had all kinds of methods to get you to talk.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't need to be Alan Turing to figure out the little fish thing.
Exactly.
It's also like we should probably do a whole segment sometime about how Domitian has just been kind of rebuilt as this arch villain that the Christian martyrdom narrative needed, right?
Yeah, and there were shitty emperors, but Domitian wasn't one of them. So anyway,
yeah.
So even though it does indeed date back to as far as anything in the Christian pantheon, this little story about it being a secret greeting is total bunk. So leaving that aside, let's move on to what the symbol means and how it came to represent Christianity. One of the earliest references to the ichthys is from Tertullian, writing in the late 2nd or early 3rd century, where he talks about, quote, "we the little fish," in reference to baptism. As we'll discuss, Christianity is very much a water-based religion, as represented by their introductory ritual, baptism.
Mm-hmm.
St. Augustine wrote in the 4th or 5th century CE that Jesus was able to live without sin in the abyss of this mortality as in the depths of the waters. I think that one's just a little bit of a stretch, trying to describe the ichthys. There is a school of thought that the ichthys is in reference to the Pisces in the zodiac. Pisces is in play from February 19th to March 20th. Now, because Jesus was absolutely 100% a real guy, we don't know when he was conceived, we don't know when he was born, and we don't know when he died. There are different sects of Christianity, especially in the Ethiopian and Gnostic sects, that believe that Jesus was either conceived, born, or was killed during Pisces. So, there's that. Most likely,
you gotta love it when you cross the streams and you combine your Christianity with your.
Yeah,
exactly.
I'd love to see Jesus's charts.
Most likely, the relationship between Jesus and fish are the myriad stories in the New Testament relating to Jesus and fish.
That's what I always assumed. It came from the fishermen.
Exactly. His whole
the
cadre
fisher
of
of
early
men.
Exactly. His whole cadre of early disciples were fishermen. Like you said, Uncle Dan in Matthew 4, Jesus famously called out to Simon and Andrew and said, "Come follow me and I will make you fishers of men." Jesus spent a lot of time fishing with his men and not only calmed a storm in Mark 4, but even walked on water in Matthew 14, demonstrating his airbender-like power over the water. In John 21 and Luke 5, Jesus tells Simon Peter and John where to cast their nets so as to haul the most fish. And, of course, when he fed the multitude with but a few fishes and loaves of bread that Uncle Dan talked about in episode 82. That miracle, by the way, is the only miracle of Jesus that is reported in all 4 Gospels. Although,
Really?
Yep, but because it's the Bible, the chronology, the size of the crowd, and the number of fishes differ by each account. But hey, it's not like the book is supposed to be true or anything.
Right.
Finally, of course, is the aforementioned ritual of baptism, which plays a huge role in the entirety of the New Testament. Whatever form this ritual actually took in early Christianity, whether it was immersion or just a nice moistening, it was a water ritual. It seems pretty clear that gospel writers thought it very important to point out that Jesus had specific powers over water and the fish that lived in it. So it's not really a surprise that early Christians adopted the symbol of the fish to represent Jesus.
So he's Aquaman.
Basically, he's Aquaman, totally.
Yeah.
Which is funny coming from a Mormon perspective because as all of the Mormon missionaries know, it's the devil that lives in the water.
That's right.
Exactly.
The devil has
That's
dominion
so
over
true.
the waters.
Yeah. Well, it's so again. I say it's not a surprise that early Christianity would adopt the fish. it would seem, in fact, to be a far more appropriate symbol for Jesus than the cross. The fish represented his life's mission, his miracles, and his most important ritual. The cross represented only the moment of his death and would seem to be a far more appropriate symbol of Roman justice.
Well, it took more than just a moment. It took a while.
Well,
It took
but
a few
also
hours.
it's the murder weapon. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it's a bizarre choice.
It is,
Yeah,
I
exactly.
think it's because the fish, it's many things, but it's also kind of about abundance, which ties back to his, feeding the multitudes.
Yeah, exactly.
It's odd that it didn't stick.
Yeah, well, it did stick. It just didn't win, right?
Right.
Like the cross and the fish were dual icons of Christianity, especially early on. But if there was a competition between the two, it seems pretty clear that the cross won.
I don't know if you did any, if you saw any of this in your research, but just from my kind of anecdotal life experience, it seems to me that when I see the fish being used in a contemporary sort of way, it's usually kind of more hippie Christian, kind of good, kind of good guy Christians. Like maybe they're trying to reclaim that or something.
I think that's true, but I think the thing is that the symbol of the Catholic Church is most definitely the cross. But you can see the fish everywhere as well in Catholic iconography. So
Right.
I think right now, like we're talking about putting it on the back of your car, I think you're probably right. But the fish has always been there, but it's just been in the background more than the cross.
Right.
Interestingly, there was another symbol that had a short-lived day in the sun, the 8-spoked wheel. If you stack all 5 Greek letters on top of each other that make ichthys, you end up with an 8-spoked wheel.
Huh.
So for a while, this symbol was actually quite common in early Christianity for the first couple centuries CE, but for reasons unknown, it fell out of favor, and it's basically only known to religious scholars now.
It's because it resembled more closely the angels of the Bible, and everybody got confused.
That's probably right.
Yeah,
So-
the Ezekiel's wheel or something.
Exactly. We'll probably never know the exact date or location of the ichthys as a symbol of Christianity when it arose, and likewise the exact reasons for its adoption. But it is truly one of the OG parts of Christianity from the beginning. It predates many of the books of the Bible. But we could all that can be true, and the story of it, how it's a little secret handshake to throw the Romans off the scent, could still be total bullshit. So
Yeah,
that's not good.
I remember in art school and art history talking about in the catacombs how the fish was a fairly common symbol.
Yep.
If indeed it was true, that the Christians were meeting in secret in the catacombs, and also how for quite a long period the imagery of Apollo and Jesus can't be told apart. Right. At some point, the Christians co-opted Apollo's imagery, but it took a while for them to develop their own, the Jesus version of it. Right.
Right. Yeah. So that's it. There's not a hell of a lot to it, but it is out there.
Yeah.
I love it. It's go out there and be a fisher of fish and leave the men alone. That's
Go up
what
to
I
a Christian and do a little arc in the sand and see what they do.
Everybody should write. Listen, next time you're at the beach, sort of shimmy up next to some guy standing there, and then just make some sort of design in the sand with your toes. Just see what he does.
I didn't look this up, but there's a great story about how when the Pizarro and his conquistadors caught up with the Incas in Peru, who had just finished like this major war and were kind of the king was in motion, and so he wasn't really in his fortress. And anyway, bad luck all around. But apparently the Incas had no written language, so some conquistador blew the king's mind when he was trying to explain to him written language, and he's like, watch. And he wrote the word Dios in the dirt, and then some random other guy came along and he said, hey, what does that say? And he said, Dios. And so it kind of like was that moment, but pretty fascinating. Anyway, got a tangent there, so
All right.
eat
Let's
fish.
move on.
Yeah, go eat some fish and we'll move along. Well, fellas,
Hi.
Hey-o.
you know, it is a miracle and a mystery how we humans work. But one of the things that sometimes happens is some of us humans, in this case, we three, make something, and then other people like it so much that they give money for it. And this is a free podcast, and will continue to be so. But some people are very kind and have decided to donate their hard-earned cash unto us, and so we have some folks to thank.
Yeah.
So, I would like to our sincerest and lovely thanks go to Craig, to David, to Camilla, and Uncle Mark. I am going to have you create a saint for our dear friend Mike Pence and Mother, who have now upgraded to sainthood.
And I think we overlooked Mike Pence and Mother because so many people overlook Mike Pence and Mother. But
they're hard to see. They're so white that they are vaguely transparent.
They're luminously white. So thank you for your patience, you guys. We didn't mean to miss you. And I hope the wait will make this all the sweeter because you are getting a real top drawer saint, friends. You are getting Saint Retrogradus Maximus of Strasbourg, who is the patron saint of ridiculous third act plots, salvaging twists, and of course anyone whoever woke from a deep sleep only to find themselves about to tumble over Niagara Falls, and Life Day on Chewbacca's home planet of what's his home? What's the name of his home? What is
Kashyyyk.
it? Kashyyyk on Chewbacca's home planet of Kashyyyk. So congratulations on that Kashyykiness.
A 70s canon deep cut there.
Yeah, it's going deep.
I like it. Amazing. Oh, and there's one other person. Sorry, Jennifer was also. I missed her in the lineup. So all of you wonderful people, thank you so much for your patronage. We appreciate it. If you, listener at home who wasn't listed in that list, think, hey, wouldn't it be neat for the uncles to say my name on that list? You can make it happen. All you got to do is go to howtoheretic.com, click the support us thingy. It gets you to the stuff. You click the things, you enter your stuff, and then boom. Yeah. You've chosen how much you want to give to us. You give it, and then you forget about it, and you keep giving it to us in perpetuity.
It's a wager where everybody wins, and that's the best kind, isn't it?
That's how can you go wrong?
Exactly.
So, Uncle Mark.
Yeah.
Listen, I don't know if you've heard about this. They've kind of kept it under the rug a little bit, but there's, what do you call it? A global pandemic. Still raging.
A plandemic.
Well, depends on where you are and who you ask. There's not much planning for almost anything at this point, but yes, people are getting sick and even dying.
Yes,
loads
of them.
Loads
of them.
And in this country, we've lost 500,000 people. 500,000.
Getting closer to 600, I think. Yeah.
I almost lost math entirely out of my brain. So we literally, a lot of people are dealing with the death of loved ones because of this. And if it's not because of that, guess what? Loved ones die in all of our lives, and we have to deal with that.
And as the pandemic is maybe waning, school shootings are on the way back up.
Oh,
so
what a cheerful place for you to have taken that.
America, we're coming back.
So anyway, we've brought on an expert in this sort of thing. Grieving, dealing with the concept of death. This is the host of the Dr. Death podcast. She is a non-religious hospice chaplain, an end-of-life educator, and a grief counselor, Dr. Terri Daniel. Welcome to the How to Heretic. Thanks so much for coming on.
Hey, you guys. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Yeah, it's wonderful that you've you actually found us before we found you, which I think is fun. and you've been a frequent interactor with us.
And we've been on her show.
Yeah, we've been on your show.
Yep, you were on Ask Dr. Death.
So it takes a little bit. I said Dr. Death, and I didn't say Ask Dr. Death. That is the name of the podcast. I apologize.
That's okay.
But yeah, I just thought, now is a time when we need to be talking about death and dying as non-believers, as non-religious people. It is a different animal entirely. And I took as my inspiration to contact you a comment in a Facebook post that I saw. It was the Facebook post said it was a guy talking about the fact that a loved one had just died, and he's in the middle of this grieving process. He's dealing with all of the emotions and the work that comes with people dying in your life, and then he has to deal with so many people on Facebook and in real life saying things like, "I'm praying for you. They're in a better place." All of the sort of Christian/religious platitudes that you have to deal with. And it's just, can you talk a little bit about that, about the fact that we are non-believing mourners in a believer's world?
I can totally talk about that. I love that expression, non-believing mourners in a, what did you say, a religious world, whatever
Something
that is.
like that.
A believer's world. Yeah.
A believer's
that was
world.
good, Dan.
That was really
I
good.
did a good one.
I think that's the name of my next book.
I'm going to retire now.
You did it.
Yeah. So it's, those platitudes, not only are they offensive and horrible, they also reveal the infantile nature of the person's theology when they're saying that. Like when they say something like, God just needed another flower for his garden. And you want to say,
so awful.
Yeah, and you want to say, well, he's God. Why doesn't he just fucking make another flower?
Yeah, leave my mom here and have a
fuck your garden. Can I keep my dad?
Yeah, or make a flower out of thin air. You can do that. You're God, right? So so when somebody says that stuff to you, there's like four things you can do, and you mostly have to understand how ignorant that person is, because what happens to everybody is we get our theological teaching as children, 3, 4, 5 years old, and we just kind of sit with it. It never really matures for most people. So when we're kids, we're taught how to behave. We're taught, how to be quiet in the library, look both ways when you cross the street, say please and thank you, but nobody teaches us how to be around death and how to interact with a person who's in deep mourning and deep pain. So we just go right to our theology because religious people have even fewer skills in that area. All they have is the beliefs they were indoctrinated with as children. So they offer you their infantile belief system. So the first thing you do is kind of give them a little bit of a break because they're just dumb and they don't know any better, if you can.
Well, we're all dumb and don't know any better. Like you're right. I was never taught how to deal with people, how to be cool around grieving people. So yeah, I think that's a good thing. Like we are all kind of dumb about it. So cutting people some slack is probably appropriate.
Yeah, and if the person is just so annoying, there's a couple of different things you can do. You can, if you feel strong and like you can be the bigger person, just smile and say thank you and walk away and go talk to somebody else. That would be,
sure,
the calm and centered thing to do. Or you can stare at them angrily and then walk away. Or you can confront them and say, and how exactly is you praying going to help this situation?
Right.
But you're not going to like their answer because they're going to give you their big apologetic answer.
Right.
Yeah. You can look at them and say, so nothing. You're just going to do nothing. That's what prayer is.
I mean, it seems like really the only, I mean, when my dad died, which will be 10 years ago, this fall, I was surrounded by a whole bunch of people who were saying all of those things. And it's especially like, you don't want to create a scene at your loved one's funeral or whatever. So yeah, really what you have access to is thank you very much. And then hope that they don't continue talking.
I mean, I will play the devil's advocate, which is not normally what the role I play on the show when talking about believers. But I think there is underlying the ignorance and the do nothingness. I think there is a sincerity to a lot of those well wishes. Like,
oh yeah,
they are wishing you well. They are trying to say something nice. They just don't realize that it is kind of nothing.
Right.
Well, they're doing the only thing they are equipped to do. Right. That's all they have. And even though they're trying to make you feel better, what's really happening under that is they're just saying that stuff to make them feel better.
Yeah.
And so they're applying their religious beliefs as sort of a salve to soothe their own pain and discomfort. When they're standing with you and your father just died 3 days ago, that other person is extremely uncomfortable. They don't know how to act around you. They don't know what to say. They feel helpless. They want to help you, but they can't. So that's all they have in their toolbox. And what it really does is make them feel better. And maybe, if they really believe in prayer, they may really think that if they say some sort of prayer, I don't know what's supposed to happen. Is it supposed to make sure your father goes to heaven? Is it supposed to relieve your pain? What is it supposed to do?
Right. Yeah.
Nothing.
That's a very, yeah. It turns out that doesn't mean anything when someone says that, but boy, does it mean something to them. Boy, do they think they're doing something when they say it.
It makes them feel better. And if I could tell you a little story about that.
Please.
The reason I got into this business in the first place was my son died when he was 16 after a long illness. And I had a neighbor who was a missionary, and she and her husband would go to Africa and preach to people all the time. And it just happened she had brought this African woman back with her from wherever they were on their last mission. They kept one. Yes. And so she was
that is discouraged.
Yeah.
So she was at their house next door to me, and they came over, and the African woman, my son was still there laying on the bed, and he was already dead. And she sang this little song over him. And, the music was just beautiful. It was one of those beautiful, indigenous kind of songs. And I just loved it. And I said, that's so beautiful. Will you sing it again? So she sang it a second time. And only then did I ask her what the words meant. and the words were she was asking God to allow my son's soul to go to heaven. It was so offensive.
Yeah.
It's so offensive to think you have to ask permission for a perfect little soul.
Right.
It's like so stupid.
Yeah. A guiltless child.
Well, that one was kind of on you for asking. If you had just let it be, you would have been fine.
Well, it's funny because I listen to African indigenous music all the time. It's like one of my Pandora stations, and I don't understand a word of any of it. And I just love it, love listening to it. So
yeah.
It's
and now you've learned the lesson not to ask.
Not to ask.
It's better not to know the lyrics in many cases, right?
Yeah.
So maybe you can help us out with some. You say we're not raised, we're not given the tools to properly deal with someone who's in a place of deep grieving. Can you help us? Can you supply us with a few of those tools? Is there something you can?
Well, it's the hardest thing to do, and it's the most obvious, and it's very simply to just say nothing, say as little as possible. The grieving person isn't going to listen or hear you anyway. You're not there to teach them or direct them or even console them. You're just there to, as we say in chaplaincy, be present for them.
Right.
So you can, depending on who the person is in your relationship, you can sit down next to them and say, man, this sucks.
Yeah.
And they'll go, yeah. And then you just sit there and hold their hand and don't say anything.
Yeah. So don't just do something. Stand there.
Exactly. That's
right.
Exactly right. And it's not going to be an awkward silence because the person is in an altered state and isn't really expecting social conversation at that point anyway.
Well, and they're kind of probably very much hoping not to have social conversation, or if they want some, they'll lead it.
That's exactly right. And you do want them to lead it. And, in grief counseling and in chaplaincy, and of course, when I say chaplaincy, I'm talking about my style of non-religious chaplaincy. We're trained not to lead, but to create a space where the other person can lead. So if you just walk in and say, man, this sucks, then the other person is immediately going to start talking. Yeah. And you can sometimes fill it in with, my dad died 10 years ago, I've been where you are. But even that is kind of presumptuous.
Well, and it can make it about you
exactly.
or be perceived as making it about you.
Yeah. So, you just put yourself in the background, your story, your need to make someone else feel better. If you leave that all in the background and you just sit. Another thing, and really the most important thing, is there is something you can do. Help them with stuff. Don't say to people, is there anything I can do to help? Because they're never going to give you an answer. They're going to just say, no, I'm fine. Yeah. So if you're in their house, just go start cleaning up the kitchen, sweep the driveway, do whatever needs to be done. Don't even ask. Or you can, if the bathroom is filthy, just go up to the person and say, hey, I'm going to clean your bathroom.
Yeah.
And they'll say, fine, whatever, because they're not paying attention. And so you can do things for them.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny, isn't it? Like the way that I guess it's probably the same throughout most of the world, but the way that the family or the survivors of the deceased, so much work begins the moment they die. Right. That, oh my God, now I've got to arrange this funeral. Most people have no experience with that. It turns into a whole Megillah. Right. Now I've expected to, for lack of a better word, entertain people in the house, and I'm just barely keeping it together. Now I've got to get up and bare my soul in some, eulogy. It's like it's a tremendous amount of labor that suddenly falls on the bereaved. Right.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm in the worst position of my emotional state of my life. Let's add public speaking to that.
Yeah.
That's
and
fun.
Like a $10,000 fucking, or however much a funeral costs, oh my God, now this, right?
Right.
It's so much labor falls on them all of a sudden.
And people don't prepare for this in advance. And of course, in hospice, we want everybody to have an advance directive. We want you to have your funeral plans already made and paid for, so that you don't have to dump that on your friends and your children and your family. And the labor part is, the solution to that is find one person in your circle of friends who's responsible and capable
to take charge,
and let them take charge. Let them make all the phone calls, do all the things. You don't have to make a speech or say the eulogy, but a lot of people find that it's actually pretty healing to do that. I did the eulogy at my son's funeral and at my mother's, but I like public speaking. I'm comfortable with that. That's a very natural, organic place for me to be. So it was easy for me, but for other people, it's got to be terrible. Yet they choose to do it because it's part of the healing process for them.
Yeah, there's something to
so
that.
Sorry, Dan.
I was just going to say there's definitely something to that. I actually felt good about talking at my dad's funeral. Although I will say this, just as a quick pro tip, don't book yourself after a beautiful musical number. That is a very bad idea. That caused at least 30 seconds of awkward while I tried to compose myself. So,
and Dan, you didn't. Your dad was a practicing Mormon.
Yeah,
but you did not. Am I correct? You did not hold the funeral in a Mormon ward house.
No, we didn't. I found a funeral home that looked pretty and that had a lovely view of the valley, and then and I did sort of as my nod to his religion. I asked his Mormon bishop to give an opening prayer, but I didn't do a closing prayer, and I sure as fuck didn't let any of those bastards talk during the thing.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. And then, then you get into the whole religious thing. I had a family once where the father was Catholic. He made all his plans. He was very Catholic, and he wanted a mass. He had the whole thing figured out what he wanted when he died. And then he died. And one of his daughters was a born-again Christian, and she insisted on having the service at her, evangelical wacko Jesus church.
Right.
Oh no.
Against the father's wishes, and the other sibling was trying to honor the father's wishes, and they had this huge battle, and so they ended up having two, one at the Catholic Church and one at the other church.
Great.
Just because of religious rift. I mean,
what's better than arranging one funeral but two?
Yeah.
Yeah, and religion just so much gets in the way of it. And back to sort of theory on this, the reason we have religion is primarily so people have some kind of system for dealing with death.
Yeah.
That's kind of why it's created. So if you look at us, at a primitive level, like back in the early days of human history, shit happens, the baby died, the crops died, something happened, you had death and loss, and you'd sit around the fire with your tribe and saying, what happened? Why did that happen? And you start to make up mythologies that explain why bad things happen. And from that starts to have doctrine like, well, maybe if we, do our special worship dance for the sun or the rain or something more.
We'll appease the god of whatever.
Appease the god. So that's how the gods are created. It's 100% because of death.
What do you think about the idea of, early on in this podcast, we had a guy named Paige come on who's a psychotherapist, and we talked to him a little bit about grief and grieving, and he talked about rituals and about creating your own ritual and how, religion makes people, it's tricky because it has all these annoying side effects, but they actually have some useful things going on too. And one of them is that they have rituals that they can do that make people that give people comfort, give them a sense of, give them something to do if nothing else, but also give them a way to confront this that isn't just, sitting around crying.
Yeah, exactly. I'm so glad that you brought that up because I'm really big on ritual. In fact, I'm actually teaching a class on rituals at a seminary in the fall to chaplaincy students. So yes, absolutely, 100% on rituals. It does give you something to do. It's almost a form of occupational therapy. It gives you like little things that you can make, representational objects, and then you carry it outside and you bury it in the earth. That part of it is really helpful, but it also gives form to the formless. So your grief and your pain and the trauma you experienced and the love that you have for the person, these things can't be defined in words or images. So ritual makes a representation of it. So if you, paint "I love you" on a rock and take that rock to the cemetery and put it next to the grave or in the grave, you've now given form to the love and put it in to the funeral, and you've made a ritual that expresses something. And the thing about rituals is they don't have to have any kind of religious context at all.
Right.
And so, yeah, it's really important for people to create their own rituals. There's some wonderful books. There's a book called Sacred Ceremony that I'm using as a textbook in my class that has wonderful rituals for every rite of passage: death, birth, menopause, buying a house, all of this. And think about, the rituals that people just normally accept. Like when you get married, you're supposed to carry the bride over the threshold.
Right.
That's a ritual. Everybody does it.
Yeah. And our lives just in any culture are full of rituals that most of us don't even know the origin of, right? It's just simply something you do. You throw rice at the wedding, right?
Yeah.
And
I think one of the nice things about being non-religious and and looking at the world through that lens is that you get to create your own rituals. That the ritual doesn't have to be tied to anybody else's thing. You can do what feels right for you, or you can imagine something and then just make it so. It doesn't have to be. Maybe there's extra pressure to do it if you don't know how, but I just think that that's a lovely thought.
Yeah, being non-religious gives you, unlimited freedom to connect with yourself and others, and perhaps the non-ordinary reality, multidimensional world outside of the physical realm. All of those things, you have the opportunity to connect with those things in a way that fits for you and suits you, using the words that you like, the symbols that you like, all of those things. And prayer, I have to deal with prayer all the time because,
sure.
As a hospice chaplain, and I never offer prayer to the patients that I see, but sometimes they'll ask me to pray for them or with them. And I will just, I'll make up my own prayer. And what I basically say to them, and I don't think they really like this, but I say, take a deep breath, open your heart, feel the essence of who you are, and find the place in yourself where you have the strength to cope with this difficult situation and accept the outcome for whatever it is.
That's beautiful.
With grace and love.
Yeah. That is beautiful.
That's a totally non-religious prayer.
So when we were on your show, Dr. Terri, a while ago, we were talking, and I asked you, in your experience, in hospice care and hospital care with dying patients, what group you found struggled with the situation the most. And if I recall correctly, you said it was the atheist people.
I would say the atheists and the Christians probably equally.
Interesting.
And so with the atheists, and you don't see many of them in hospice, and because if there are, they don't,
because we live forever.
That's right. And then and there's not a checkbox on the intake form.
Of
for
course,
atheists,
there's not.
They usually say other. I've seen a lot of atheists get really panicky at the end of life because they feel like they have regrets. They missed out. One man I remember was just so upset because he never got to go on a sailboat race, which was his big dream. And he just had this one choice. What?
If you've lived a long life, and that is your biggest regret, hats off to you.
Yeah.
Right.
That's a good one. But then they also have the regrets about relationships and forgiveness.
Yeah, sure.
But it's really, it's really the Christians that get the most upset because of hell. They're really concerned about going to hell.
I mean, that's it. What a terrifying thing to have had this concept sort of ethereally floating around in your noodle for your whole life, and then suddenly it becomes concrete, and you have to ask yourself, did I do enough? Do I get to go to heaven? Am I going to see the people that I'm supposed to see in the afterlife, or am I going to be denied that thing? That's a terrifying thing to.
It's terrifying, and that's the essence of toxic theology. Toxic theology really grabs you when you're dying or grieving. Those are the times when you're the most vulnerable to it.
How do you?
It's non-canonical, right? I mean, it's that they've been given this thing that really isn't part of the founding texts of Christianity.
It is completely non-canonical.
Yeah. It got made up along the way.
When someone comes to you with that kind of terror in their minds about not going to heaven, or even the atheists, when they come to you and are so regretful about the things that they have or haven't been able to do in their lives,
what you would not say to the atheist is, don't worry, you'll get to go do a sailboat race in your next life.
Right. Yeah, that's not a very helpful thing.
So that's where ritual comes in. So let's just use the sailboat guy as an example.
Okay, great.
I could have him and his family do like a little art therapy process where he draws a picture of a boat on the water and, just kind of creates a little scene and does perhaps a meditation on that. So like as he's dying, he can imagine that he's floating away on the water on a boat. There's like readings and poetry and things that you can read that are that there's a lot of boat and water analogies in end-of-life care.
Sure.
So something like that would be really helpful for a guy like that. For the Christians who are terrified of hell, I actually use this one example in the classes that I teach. I had this guy once who been diagnosed with the 3rd stage, 4th stage cancer. He was dying. He was about 70. And he's told me, I was a really bad dude my whole life. I was a meth dealer. I beat up women. I was a criminal. It was, and he told me, and he said, but one day I was with my biker brothers and we were camping someplace, and there was this Christian encampment there at the campground. and they were having a big revival, and I walked over there and I ended up getting saved. And so I found Jesus and I became a Christian, but I still went back to my criminal, horrible life. It didn't change anything. And now here it is 30 years later and I'm dying. And my question to you, Chaplain Terri, is, am I going to go to hell or am I going to go to heaven? Am I saved or am I not saved? It's a great example for teaching, right?
Yeah, that's a great question.
So,
And could he hear you as you put the pillow over his face? He's a horrible human being.
It was such a great opportunity to use one of the number one tools that we have in chaplaincy, which is called reflection. So you reflect somebody's philosophy or belief or whatever they say, you reflect it, you put it right back in their lap. You don't give them an answer because I don't have an answer to that question.
Right.
So I said, well, do you still consider yourself a Christian? He says, yes. I said, well, then what does your faith tell you? Tell me what the belief system says about this. Or what does the doctrine say? And he said, well, it says that, as long as I have Jesus, even if it's at the last minute on my deathbed, I'm going with Jesus to heaven. And so I said, so you just answered your own question.
Your answer is bullshit, but it's your answer. So.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
And so it made him feel better. And you go where your belief system says you're going to go. So I said, dude, you're good to go.
Yeah. Wow. I think regardless of what, obviously I don't believe in an afterlife, but dude, you're good to go is probably just the right thing to say to a dying person.
To a dying meth dealer.
I'm not dying meth dealer. Yeah, I mean, and I loved this guy. I mean, he was a real badass. He's covered with tattoos, broken teeth, the whole thing. And he was happy after that conversation. And I didn't tell him anything.
Right.
I just put him back into himself.
Wow. Now, you are, as we're wrapping up here, you are also speaking. We just talked to Nate Phelps a couple weeks ago.
Yes, indeed.
And you are speaking at an event he's speaking at as well. You want to tell us a little bit about that before we go?
Yes, the Conference on Religious Trauma. And Nate is there, plus a bunch of other amazing luminaries. Marlene Winnell, I believe, is there. I think you guys know her.
Yep.
I can't give you the website because it's kind of a weird website, but I can give it to you and you can post it in the show notes.
Sure.
It's online. It's 3 days. It's all the experts in religious trauma, therapists who help people with religious trauma. Nate Phelps, of course. Jeremiah Kamara is a really interesting guy who made a film about faith in the Black church and how that particular theology has contributed to keeping that particular community kind of suppressed and oppressed.
Interesting. Yeah.
So there's you should interview that guy.
I'll have to watch that. Yeah, that's
and the film it's on. It's called Contradiction: A Question of Faith, and it's on Amazon Prime.
Oh, excellent.
So yes, please, everybody, all you listeners out there, come to the Conference on Religious Trauma. I think it's the third weekend in May, and it's
just a virtual conference.
It's a virtual conference. Yes.
All right.
And then where can people find you, Dr. Terri, if they want to follow you or get in contact with you, etc.?
The best place to find me is spiritualityandgrief.com. There's a lot of different places to find me, but you're kind of all over the place. I am all over the place.
You got too many jobs, lady.
I do have too many jobs, but that's the best one in terms of religion and grief. I'm about to start a grief support group that's based on my new book, which is called Grief and God, When Religion Does More Harm Than Healing. And I'm starting a support group for people who have struggled with grief because of the effect of toxic theology. So that kind of stuff can be found on spiritualityandgrief.com.
I have a feeling more than a few of our listeners will have an interest in that. So,
yes. Yeah.
So,
I hope so. I would love to interact with them. It's going to be a really good little program.
Well, Dr. Terri Daniel, you're doing the Lord's work out there. We really appreciate you, and we'll have you back on another time sometime.
Thank you so much.
Thanks so much for
love you guys to pieces. Thank you.
Love you back.
Well, friends, that is it for this week's show.
Hey, we'd love to hear from you. Send us an email at howto@howtoheretic.com.
Or you can hit me up on Twitter at howtoheretic.
Oh my God. And thanks to our patrons who are awesome. We love you.
And thanks to our smelly old fish, Cody Layton, for editing the show.
And thanks to all of you friends for tuning in.
Bye, friends.
Bye!